Welcome into an all-new Jock Market Power Hour for this week's Charles Schwab Challenge. I'm Rick Gaiman. That right there, Joe Idoni. Joe, it is good to see you.
Good to see you, man. Breath. Like deep breath after what we just went through at the PGA Championship. Always delivers, doesn't it? It happened once again. It was an exciting market as well with a ton of movement in there. There was some good, some bad for me. I'm sure for you as well and many people, but was sort of thrilled with the end result and my guy breaking through.
Yeah, that's right. We'll show the results from the market here in just a second. But we were talking before we went hot. This stretch of golf where it's PGA, Charles Schwab, which is like a decent field. Then you're going to get the Memorial, which is going to be stacked. The Canadian Open and then the U.S. Open. Like this has got to be the most grueling stretch for these guys of the year.
Absolutely. This is the month where golf is kind of takes the spotlight as the NBA and NHL playoffs sort of wrap up here over the next couple of weeks. In excitement, there is no rest for the weary. There is no like guys taking an off week. We have a great field this week. We have a bunch of sort of top 20 players in the world. We know Canada always draws a strong crowd, particularly with a lot of the European. I've seen some of the commits already. Memorial is going to get everybody, and then we're right to LACC. So, yeah, an exciting stretch of golf without a doubt.
Absolutely. So we are full on in tonight's block market or Jock market, maybe. I don't know. Tough to say for this week. We are playing stock market DFS. These golfers are now shares. They're now stocks. And between now and 9 p.m. Eastern time, which is about 40 minutes from now for those who are watching live, you can bid on those shares. You can short golfers. You can put together a portfolio so that when this tournament starts and live trading begins, your portfolio starts moving and you can take action in any direction that you so please. Let me show the results from last week here. And you'll see Brooks Koepka this time last week sold for $6.85 per share. Got the full $25 per share payout. That's $18 of profit. Scottie Scheffler, who did not win, but piled up another second place finish, went for $10.25, payout at $20 a share. That's $9.75 of profit per share. And we'll round it out with Victor here. $6.75 an IPO to $18. That's $11.25 of profit. So just a couple of examples there. And then you got some long shots, Joe, with Cam Davis, who sold for $3.35, Kurt Kitayama, who sold for $3.06 last week. And even Bryson, this was my big holding and the one that helped me out quite a bit, $3.47, $14.
Yeah, great move on Bryson. If you mentioned the sort of block party, but if Michael Block was an IPO available last week, he would have without a doubt been the top ROI guy, I believe. He is this week. They are running a special promotion that we should mention. So go on over to the Jock Market Twitter page. They're doing like a $150 giveaway. Boom, there you have it. Block first Harry Higgs. Quote tweeted, tell him who you got. It's kind of an easy call, to be honest, but it's still a fun story. Like last week, when you look back at that sort of leaderboard, and I was looking at it earlier today, and he was my biggest holding, and obviously I'm sort of super fan or whatever you want to label me, but insane price on Brooks in the IPO of 685. Like if you look at an odds board, he was basically there with Cantlay and Xander all week. Like they were kind of grouped in that 20-1 range. Xander went for 865. Cantlay went for 851. The guy with the same odds with the win equity that is pretty much unmatched over the last 10 years in major championships was down there at 685 with guys similar in sort of, if you compare it to an odds market, 30-1, 35-1. He was sort of in that grouping. And I think that's kind of how I looked at it at the time. I think that's how I've taken a little bit more of an approach, which has helped me, is to sort of lean on the sports book, lean on the handicaptors, lean on the sort of sharp market making options in terms of setting the prices and try to find a little bit of a difference in Jock Market. And I've had a little bit of success doing so.
Yeah, it's nice to use another resource and compare. And that's what happens a lot. And I think, because this thing moves so fast, especially in the last couple of minutes, it's very easy for people to just get stuck on their guy, whether their guy was Xander, whether their guy was Patrick Cantlay, whoever your guy is, to get stuck on that guy. And while you have someone who is, implied to finish or to win just as often, and he's $2 cheaper, it's like, whoa, don't have a blind spot here. Let's be smart.
Exactly. I think it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, but I think we're going to have some like situations like that throughout the board this week as well, judging by some of the public sentiment that I've heard thus far.
Real quick, here's Scottie Scheffler's recent run. By the way, I just wanted to point this out. Since Mayakoba, he has lost you money in the jock market 3 times. One of them, he lost you 10 cents a share. One, he lost you 7 cents a share. And his worst loss was $1.45 per share. Everything else has been a winning market. It's pretty bonkers what he's up to.
It's so good, and I'm so impressed with him from a talent standpoint, what he's been able to do. And watching him, it feels like I sense a bit of frustration in him that like it could be better, and not all cylinders are firing to the optimal levels. And you look at some, you can pull some different stats and some analytics where he appears to be struggling. And then you just look and think, what are the results, right? He's still playing fantastic. He's still bringing his A game. He's still finishing the number 2 guy on the entire board when it seemed like he held 0 putts outside of 10 feet and was very frustrated throughout the week. So he's just, and that sort of illustrates there what an elite level he's sort of playing at right now.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome stuff. So if you want to get involved, there's a couple ways to do it. Joe already mentioned that there is a Jock Market tweet that is out there right now from just a couple hours ago that if you quote tweet it with who you think is going to win, either Michael Block or Harry Higgs, who's going to be better, you are entered to win $150. Very, very simple, and a good ROI for one tweet to potentially win you $150. The other way is to use the code POWER to go sign up for Jock Market. This is a promo code that'll get you a $100 deposit bonus. It's the best out there. And we haven't even mentioned the fact that the golf props are live for this week. There's strokes and fairways and birdies are better and all that fun stuff that you can build your prop parlays. So there's really lots of angles, lots of ways to get involved, and lots of ways to get extra money if you're paying attention.
Absolutely. There's a ton of incentives, whether it be deposit bonus. They're now offering as well. Last week was sort of the launch of the featured bet segment, which happens right after IPO, which basically allows you to bundle different shares and have sort of a one-click easy button buy or sell on terms of shorting guys. So very cool, man, continuing to innovate and push new things out there into the market. And we're here for it, buddy.
Yeah, we're here for it indeed. Let's play a little bullish or bearish, where Joe and I take a stand on 4 different golfers and decide whether we are bullish or bearish. We will start with a Texan himself in Jordan Spieth. His fair value tonight is $8.66. That's essentially saying we've looked at all the odds to win. We've looked at all the odds, finish top 5, top 10, all that stuff. And based on those outcomes, the fair value for him is $8.66. That would ask him to finish about 15th or better. Joe, are you bullish or bearish on Jordan Spieth?
I think I'm bullish here, to be honest. And it's normally not a price point where I would be bullish on Spieth. But number one, in terms of any sort of course history here at this event, I just think that it's one of those sort of stickier spots that just tend to set up really well for Jordan. And he goes back to his 3, 4, 5 stops on tour every year that he consistently plays well. And this is one of them that I think you can feel comfortable with. I do think maybe some of the injury concerns, which I'm not as high on, may temper some of the pricing and some of the buys and bids on Jordan tonight. I'm not so worried about it. He looked pretty darn good last week, with the exception of some of the putting and around the green stuff, which he tends to pick that up on spots where he has a comfort zone. This is one of them. I'm saying bullish.
I'm with you here. I mean, you mentioned the injury concern, but he was like 4th off the tee last week. The ball striking numbers were there. He played well. I'm not as, I guess, worried about that as maybe I should be, or as maybe as others are. And you mentioned it in terms of course horses. There's really nobody better at Colonial, and it's up there with the best players at their best course. It's like 2.4 strokes gained per round in 40 rounds. It's something really, really bonkers. So Jordan Spieth certainly catching my attention, and certainly someone to be bullish on for that kind of top 15 fair value for tonight. Next up, sporting the second pre-rank and a guy who finished runner-up last week, it's Viktor Hovland. He was in it until that fairway bunker on 16 last week. The ball striking numbers are through the roof. Are you bullish or bearish on Viktor? And I'll tell you, before you answer that, Joe, fair value steep, 1029. which would be asking Victor to finish 11th or better.
Yeah.
1029 would be like the third most expensive he's ever been. Just throwing that out there for you.
Yeah, that's a high number. I'm going to be bearish on that price, Rick, to be honest. And it doesn't have a whole lot to do with the golf, which is just been fantastic. It's just, to me, it's a natural letdown spot, right? It was the most important Sunday of his career. He executed better than I've ever seen him execute in contention. He made a mental error, I think one mental error, and it was a decision that cost him, and not really the anything execution wise. He was fantastic. We've seen this natural progression continue with Victor throughout the major championship. I think that he's on a wonderful path. But this is like, this is like a huge Sunday night football game for the division, and then the next week you've got, the Titans on the road on a Thursday night. Like, this is the ultimate natural letdown spot where you can maybe take a guy at one of his highest IPOs ever, coming off a great week where maybe the expectations were not met, and potentially sell high. That's what I'm going to do here.
All right, fair enough. We'll see. I do think it is interesting, right? He has gotten in the mix a couple times at major championships, and then like, what does that next tournament look like? The last time I remember, I think it was Heritage, and it was like a T57, so it wasn't great. I'm a little bit more bullish. I think that what he showed, he has new shots now, which I think is exciting.
He does,
and I think that there's going to be a lot of these like driving irons off the tee and kind of the ability to get into position and then kind of attack from there. So we might just be getting Victor 2.0, which is like super scary stuff. So we'll see. I think he's gonna get pretty close to that fair value title. It's 1029. He's already kind of on the move. Okay. Colin Morikawa out of that same class. 815 is his fair value. I will tell you, Joe, he's already at it. So,
is he? Okay.
Yeah, so let's call it 950. That would be 13th or better. I'll start here. I'm a little bit worried about Colin. It has been, I'm not worried about him. It's just been a really weird year. Statistically, it's generally been good with the approach numbers and everything that you like, but not the results that he's getting. I watched a lot of him last week. It's hard because he still hits a lot of greens, but you can tell he doesn't like the shot. It looks a little bit wipey. I don't think he's flushing it as well as we've seen before, and I think you could tell it's getting him a little frustrated. So I'm gonna take a bearish stance here on Colin.
Yeah, I'm with you there. There was a thought that initially crossed my mind where if he goes under that fair value, if a lot of people are bearish on him, I can see it being the opposite of the points that I just made for Victor, of a very much a buy low spot on Colin. He's already clear of it. You're going to ask him now to finish inside the top 13. The form is not there. You're right. The confidence seems to be shaky a little bit. He's switching putting grips. Things can get a little hairy weather-wise this time of year in Texas with the winds, which it hasn't exactly been his forte either. He just hasn't shown me enough to really be bullish on him, especially in the $9 range.
Finally, Ricky Fowler, whose fair value for tonight is $7.50. That is asking him to finish 20th or better. So top 20 for Ricky. Are you bullish or bearish?
Very similar situation to Colin for me. If he goes under that number, there's a way that I could be bullish, but right there, I am not going to get there in terms of asking him to finish top 20. He has not had good results here. He was the most popular player in the DFS slates last week and led to a missed cut. Now, we often know with that sort of theory, there is always a bounce back. We saw it with Wyndham Clark. We saw it with Jason Day. Could Ricky bounce back here? Yes, but I think some of the approach numbers have started to wean slightly. It wasn't great last week. I just don't think this is a great spot for him. So I'm going to say bearish.
All right, I'll take the bullish side of things. He missed the cut on the number. He still gained a half a stroke to the field, drove it well. I also love what he's done here. So he's got, in the jock market, so last week was his first losing week in 5 weeks, and he's been a winner in 8 of his last 10. So I am interested. I think he is the most interesting guy, Joe, in terms of what that public sentiment looks like. You said it. He was the most popular golfer on the slate and missed the cut. Will people forgive quickly, Will they hold a grudge? That is going to be important over the next 28 minutes or so.
Yep. We will find out in 25, 28 minutes. Yep.
All right. Well, we are bearing down on the close of this IPO. We've got about a half hour to go. If you want to get involved, there's plenty of time to do that. Code is POWER. There's a link in the description. You can get involved and take advantage of a little extra cash. Let me unveil the big board here, Joe. This is a live pricing, and as expected, Scottie Scheffler is already crushing this market. Already more expensive than he was last week. He's $11 a share. His fair value tonight is $11.94. So we round that up to $12 a share. He's got to finish about 8th or better. He's been doing it, right? Like, when is the last time you've been disappointed with Scottie Scheffler?
Maybe just the time that he takes over the ball to hit a chip shot, but the results have sort of spoke for themselves. Yeah, look, he was $14 at the Byron Nelson a few weeks ago at very similar odds. Now, I would say this strength of field is a little bit deeper at the top, but he's going to get up there in sort of 1250, which is going to give you a chance to still double your money on a first place. He's the clear favorite. He's playing awesome right now in the form, and he checks every single box, including the returns that he's getting you in Jock Market.
Well, next up is my guy, Tommy Fleetwood, and I guess the secret is out. He's been a winner in 5 of his last 6 cash markets. He's playing this well-rounded game. There seems to be a groundswell of support that Tommy could indeed break through and get that first PGA Tour win this week.
Yeah, what are your so you said he's your guy. Where are you bringing that from? Is it a gut feel or stats?
No, I mean, I just love that he's gained strokes in all 4 categories for each of his last 3 starts, right? I mean, that's really, really hard to find. And he did it all in either a major or an elevated event. And now you get a weaker field on a golf course that is hard to overpower, which is good for Tommy because he's not going to overpower anything. And I think it's a good spot, good timing, good field. It's hard to win, right? But this feels like, all things considered, a pretty decent place for him.
Yeah, the perfect place for him. It's a guy who has sort of struggled to break through for that first PGA Tour victory. A couple of things that I just were a little bit troublesome for me with Tommy is, one, I mentioned that I do think it can be a little bit of a sticky course history spot, sort of a middling finish here last year. But coming into this event last year, the form was actually really good for Tommy. I think he was playing the best he had played in a while coming into this event. He had just come off a top 5 at the PGA Championship, I believe. He was just sort of rounding, and everything was headed in the right direction. I felt like he carried a little bit better form into this last year and didn't have a great result than he maybe is this year. But you mentioned 4 straight events where he's gaining strokes in every part of the game is certainly positive. I worry somewhat that bent grass is maybe his worst putting surface. He's not awesome at hitting a ton of fairways either, but he's certainly striking the ball great right now, and I think depending upon the price, I could be talked into him.
So he's getting a pretty decent pre-rank. It's number 5, which means there's only 4 other golfers that break a tie over Tommy Fleetwood does. 858. I'll refresh here in just a second. Colin Morikawa, Jordan Spieth, we already talked about. The 3rd pre-ranked golfer, Joe, is kind of the last guy before there's a little bit of a gap here, and that's Tony Finau. And this has been kind of a quiet week for Tony. I think people were very excited about him last week at the PGA Championship. He made the cut, but didn't do much. T72, and it wasn't particularly pretty. Not as much chatter around Tony this time around.
Very quiet, and he's played well here in the past. I think this is, correct me if I'm wrong, but he lost in a playoff in this event one year to Kevin Na, I believe. He's just been, I think we can write off a little bit of last week, but at the same time, I mean, the guy lost to Brooks by 25 strokes. It wasn't pretty for 4 straight rounds. But yeah, I think this is a good spot for him. And I do think this is the place where I might get a piece of him. I don't think anybody's got him on their betting card this week, at least that I've seen. I haven't seen much action in terms of the other markets with popularity. So I think this is a place where after 1 week, things maybe get a little bit quiet around the Finau camp, and you could potentially jump back in on a guy that has just been playing fantastic for about a year and a half. He's got 4 or 5 wins. He's been great.
Yeah, there's really just a lot of guys I'm interested to see what they do. That includes Colin, it includes Jordan Spieth, it includes Tony Finau, right? I mean, these guys that have, Sung J M, who was brutal last week. I mean, just Ricky Fowler, is he going to bounce back? There's just a lot of really interesting subplots or even subplots.
Absolutely. Max Homa is another one that I feel like he's half of his fair value right now, who was playing fantastic a month ago, and all is quiet around that camp as well. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see where the public in the market really sort of dictates and puts their dollars behind.
Sam Burns coming off two pretty sour performances in a row. He's been a loser in 3 of his last 4 cash markets. He is, though, Joe, the defending champion. Where do we stand on Sam Burns for this week?
I don't know. It is so him and Sung Jae are such interesting case studies for me in terms of what market do you play them in, right? If we're talking an outright betting market, I think it's Sam Burns all day over Sung Jae Im. And since May of 2021, the last 2 years, he has 5 wins. Talking about Burns has 5, Sung Jae has none. In that, at the same time, like, you want a guy to top 10, almost like you want top 10, you want top 14 finishes if you're playing sort of at 50-50s in a DFS format or something like Jock Market, where it's all about finishing position. I think Sung Jae Im might have the edge there. Like, if you put those two in a head-to-head matchup every week for the last 2 years, Sung Jae probably wins those 60-65% of the time, yet Burns is the one who captures all the wins. So for me, I prefer someone like Sung Jae and Jock Market, but it all comes down to risk tolerance because, as we know, defending champion, he's done it before, gone back to back at an event. We know his upside, we know his winning pedigree when the pressure mounts on a Sunday afternoon. It's hard to ignore if you get a really good price on Sam Burns tonight.
Yeah, so Sam Burns, I showed you his profile already. Here's the Sung Jae profile, who's got a much better pre-rank, 6th pre-rank. Big loser last week, but he had turned your profit in 5 straight before that. I flipped this around, Joe, and I'm sorting this by the pre-rank now. And you mentioned it, a little bit of a slow start for Max Homa, though he's starting to close the gap on his own fair value. As we start to get into the second tier of golfers, I think it falls off there's like 7 or 8 really legitimate golfers in this field, and then it kind of drops off pretty quickly. And you see that when you get to KH Lee as the 12th pre-ranked golfer. You get, Harris English as the 16th pre-ranked golfer. Are there any opportunities kind of in this second tier of names that you're going to be keeping an eye on tonight?
I think he'll move up a little bit, but the 13th ranked pre-ranked guy there is someone who I really like this week, and I bet, and it's Justin Rose. I'm not sure, but he had to be very much up there in terms of the most birdies made last week at Oak Hill. He was fantastic. I thought his iron play was super sharp. He made a couple of really bad mistakes, but this is a lot of times like one of the things I've started to lean a little bit heavier on in terms of forecasting a win for a player. Like, are they out there making birdies? And if they're making birdies and they're making bogeys, like, at some point you correct a few of those errors, you don't catch a bad break or a bad lie in the rough, and things go your way in a way that they didn't the previous week. You have a confidence there in terms of your irons with sticking it close and holding putts for 3 instead of 4. And I just really like the upside of Rose, and someone who's won here previously, I believe 4 or 5 years ago.
My quick search shows that Justin Rose made 17 birdies last week. That is the second most in the field. Only Adrian Meronk and Brooks Koepka made more. They made 18. Imagine that. Imagine Adrian Meronk being like, yeah, I made as many birdies.
Yeah, right?
Brooks Koepka.
What did he finish? What did Meronk finish?
T40, because he made 16 bogeys. Brooks made 9. And Meronk made 4 doubles. Brooks made 0.
0, yeah.
So
that's like majors. You can't make doubles. Brooks said it, I think, on Thursday after his round when he chipped that in. He's like, you can't make doubles out here. And that ended up being the deciding factor.
So that's where all those extra strokes went, even though Meronk was piling them up. Here's 21 through 30. So that's basically your Emiliano Grillos down to your JJ Spahns. There's some interesting names here. I've been quite high on Cameron Davis. He seems healthy. Fires up the leaderboard on Sunday last week, finishes T4, had a good run at RBC Heritage, which is another kind of positional golf course. Minwoo Lee just accepted special temporary membership status. I mean, I actually think I prefer this tier than the guys just right above.
Yeah, that makes some sense. Number 20 right there. I know you kind of started with Griot, but I really like Russell Henley this week, especially in starts. He doesn't Man, it's really tough to predict and kind of surprising to me that he's just been sort of electing to play these elevated events. But before the PGA Championship, look at his previous 4 elevated events in big boy fields on courses that I wouldn't say necessarily set up great for Russell Henley. All top 20 finishes, including a 4th place at the Masters. He was in actually really great form. And this, I think, is a spot that is better suited for his game. We've seen him do it at short courses like Honda and Sony and even the Shell Houston Open when it was there. So I do think this is a good sneaky spot for Henley. Minwoo Lee is an interesting one for me. So where's KH Lee?
He's the 12th pre-ranked golfer.
Is he? Okay. I was looking down further. Okay. So that's actually probably right, because I was looking at the head-to-head markets earlier and I noticed that they're both basically even priced in some DFS. They probably go around the same price today. But KH Lee is like a minus 178 favorite, a huge favorite in a head-to-head matchup over Min Woo, which I think shows you where a lot of the sharp money is kind of at this week. And it's all come in sort of on the KH Lee side. So I think something to consider maybe if you're analyzing 2 players around the same price that may have a head-to-head matchup line out there, like who do the books think is the big favorite? And in this case, it's KH Lee.
Yeah, and it's funny because they're both literally the same exact price right now, $1.96 per share. So you can use that information and make a move here in the next couple of minutes or so. So 17 minutes until this IPO closes. Power is the code you're looking for. You can get involved and get your deposit bonus. Here's the next tier. I think we can continue to say Matthew Neesmith is back. He's playing well, right? He had a really good PGA Championship where he doubled your money, and this is what you want to see. This is what we were looking for. His fair value tonight is 505. Joe, I'm just hoping that the good vibes roll on.
Absolutely, man. I love that you mentioned that. I love that you've mentioned it the last couple of weeks and sort of helped me steer me toward him and keep a closer eye on him. But yeah, I mean, there are a couple of guys around him that are going to be much more popular, like Steven Yeager, like Kurt Kitayama. Neesmith is very sneakily playing at around that same level, and you can probably get a $2 discount tonight on him on the Jock market. So you were definitely early on the Neesmith train, but 4 consecutive starts with really good finishes and ROIs.
All right, let's find some real value on this board and just kind of open it up to everybody else. I'll point out a name or two. You know, I've been pretty excited about Eric Cole. He's 50th right now. He's already over his fair value, but hovering right below the $5 mark. I think this is a pretty decent spot for him. Is there anybody on the rest of this first page that you think is worth mentioning?
Okay, well, let me go back to the first page here. I was looking to see where a certain player was on the second page, but we're not there quite yet.
I'll find him in a second.
Yeah, I know you will. Sam Stevens has been playing pretty well. Brian Palmer obviously has plenty of narratives around this course. Ben Griffin, you may be able to get a little bit of a sleepy price on tonight, still in that $3 range. But I do think this is one of those tournaments where is there a ton of difference between the $5 and the $3 guys? I would argue that it's just basically picking names at that point. If you can see a little bit of a glimpse at form, it's shown to be the more ROI going a lot of times with those cheaper guys is it opens up a ton more finishing positions when you go from $5 per share, which is 34th place, to $3 per share, which is all the way down in the top 50. So it opens up a lot of finishing spots.
Here he is, Michael Block, $1.96 per share right now. That's like 65th or better. So basically to make the cut for Michael Block, let's have the convo. Joe, will Block be in your portfolio? Will you be a blockhead tonight?
I might be short in Block. If Block gets over 2, you almost have to, right? I mean, are you a believer that this guy can do this in back-to-back events?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I mean, realistically, great guy who played well for a week. This happens every single week, everywhere. The reason that you heard about it, and rightfully so, is that he was a club pro, and then he did a lot of great interviews. We had him on set after Friday. It was great. And
cool.
Then he goes out, makes the ace, sends everybody into a frenzy, which, I mean, the place shook when that ball went down. He gained 6 strokes putting. He made an ace. Those are 2 things that are probably not going to happen again. Nobody nobody did more media, and he's still doing media like Michael Block did last week. He did more than
Good
Brooks.
for him.
Did more than Brooks. Like,
Totally.
if he makes the cut this week, I will tip my cap, be very proud of him, be very excited for him. But I cannot imagine he is like it would take, you have to be superhuman to reset and get back at it again this week.
Agree with everything that you just said. There are guys in the $2 range that are around him that are just like much like they're better, right? Like Joel Damon, even Harry Higgs is right there. Carson Young, who just set the course record at Colonial a few days ago, is $1 more. Like, there are guys that consistently play PGA Tour events that will beat Michael Block 9 out of 10 times.
Yes, that is true. And that is hard to argue with. Okay, we got about 13 minutes to go. So let me give you a recap of back on the top of the board here. Scottie Scheffler up to 1175. This is no longer uncharted territory for him. That is very much where he lives. So $12 per share or better would be 8 or better. That's kind of the market for what Scottie Scheffler is being asked to do right now. We got a pretty good run on Tony Finau, Joe. Now $9 a share. He's the second most expensive golfer on the slate. He's still got a little bit of room to get to his fair value. And then we've got the bunch of guys shaping up right behind: Fleetwood, Hovland, Morikawa, Spieth, all in that $8 range. So this is going mostly as expected.
A bit surprised, to be honest, that Spieth isn't number 2 on there for me. I think that we will see that run. Tommy Fleetwood at 885 feels high to me, especially with Victor and Colin and Sungjae underneath him. But yeah, shaping up pretty much like the odds board. Max Homa still at 650, unless I need to update. As the 7th pre-ranked guy, $8.13 fair value, still feels a little bit low, but for the most part, the rest of it seems to be shaping up in similar fashion to what we see on an odds board.
So we have these conversations all the time. You know, do you want to be early or do you want to be late? Right. And some guys you want to be early on, and some guys you want to be late on. I like to be early on the elite guys. And I certainly think that Max Homa falls into that category, right? Like, I don't necessarily need to see 6 straight weeks of great form. Like, played well at the Wells Fargo. Like, has kind of just played like okay. Besides that, Max Homa wins golf tournaments, right? Like, it's like this looks like a steal on Max at the moment.
It does. And a guy that would not shock you to see him rattle off 7-8 strokes gained putting. Right. He's just the strength of his game, and that's often what is rewarded. The more difficult that I think this place plays, the more it plays into the hands of the elite players. And Max Homa is one of the 6 best players in the field.
I mean, he just got leapfrogged again Ricky Fowler just passed him. So Homa is certainly lagging in the market here. The next tier, there's a lot more question marks, right? You've got Brian Harman, who's coming in off of 2 straight losses and 9 of his last 11, but he's got the good history around this place. I don't think I'm going to get much of my dollars out for Brian Harman this week. What's the state of the union on Denny? I feel like you follow him much closer than most, and certainly more than I do. But look at this. He's on a 5-week winning streak.
He's showing up everywhere, Rick, and playing well when you don't think a course is set up for him to play well. Majors, Memorial, US Open, Brookline, stick him anywhere right now, and the guy's competing. He literally was, I think, 3 shots outside of the cut line on Friday afternoon and went 2 or 3 under on his back 9 to just barely make it on the cut, and just grinded the weekend to a top 30. He's just playing awesome golf right now and consistent. I do think this is a good course fit for his type of game, and a guy that's in great form that it's like a broken record with me, but I do feel like a win or a top 3 finish is coming down the pipeline for Denny McCarthy. He's that good right now, and he has an asset that is one of the top assets in the world in terms of a guy makes more putts than anyone else. So yeah, I feel it. I do feel like right there though, Cam Davis, who you mentioned earlier, is someone that I do still think we can be a little bit early on in the sense, even though he peaked sort of at RBC Heritage and PGA. He's the best player in this bunch. I think long-term, Denny, Brian Harmon's, Cam Davis is going to be the best player of the bunch and the most talented one. I still think this is an opportunity to potentially be a little early on him.
Yeah, it was probably 2 years ago. We were like, Cam Davis is just raw. right?
Yeah.
He's just like super talented, super raw. He has to figure out the PGA Tour. Like he's starting to figure out the PGA Tour. That's
Yeah.
we're seeing the maturity happen right before our eyes. It's pretty cool to see.
Absolutely. The three things that matter, like drive it well, wedge it well, putt it well. He check Cam Davis. Like that's going to get him wins in his career.
All right. We are about 8 minutes away from this IPO closing, and I got to get Joe out of here in just a minute or two. The code you're looking for is power. There's a link in the description to get involved here. And even if you're not getting involved live right now in the IPO, there's a lot of live trading that's going to be happening over the course of the next 4 days as well. So, Joe, as I give you kind of the final thoughts here before we get you out, your portfolios have been splendid as of late, and I imagine there is no point in changing any of your strategies from what has been working in the last couple of months.
Yep, a lot of the same strategy, 8 to 10 guys. I kind of leaked a little bit of my strategy earlier and saying that like I kind of assess it from an odds board perspective and try to use that to create my pricing. And when I see a gap, I will attack it. And when I see someone that clears my number, I'll plug my nose and try to ignore it. So it's been working for me thus far. Had another top 20 last week there in the standings. So I'm just going to continue to sort of roll that out there until it starts to let me down.
All right, get out of here. Go do your thing. Go get your bids in, and we'll talk to you here in just a few minutes.
Is that it before I go? Is that a Wanamaker back there that's been added to the background that I see?
It's not. It's just like a very generic trophy.
Okay.
But I do like. I'd be happy if it could be confused as a Wanamaker. Yes.
Oh, I see the PG like the Oak Hill thing. So I'm like, maybe that's a little combo there. I like it, man. It's looking good.
I appreciate
Studio B's coming together.
Yeah, it does kind of look like a Wanamaker anyway. All right, get out of here. Go do your thing. I'll take everybody the rest of the way here. So we've got Scottie Scheffler, no surprise, bearing down on $12 per share. Is that $11.95 right now? $12 a share is asking him to finish 8th or better. I think I saw his top 5 number was like plus 115. So we're probably getting into that range where the finishing position markets are level with what this fair value is or what this IPO is right now. It's actually still 6 cents to go until you get to his fair value. Tony Finau's got a little bit more room than that. He's got about 81 cents to go. So Tony lost your money at the PGA, lost your money at the Wells Fargo. He's actually lost your money in 4 of his last 5, and he's actually lost your money in, 6 of his last 8, and 1 you broke even. So it hasn't been a particularly good run. Sentiment has usually been pretty high on Tony, and he hasn't been able to outperform it despite having some pretty decent results just in terms of, PGA Tour and things of that nature. So here's Tommy Fleetwood. Plenty of sentiment on him tonight. 842 was the fair value. He's over that 886. He's been a winner in 3 straight markets. We already talked about that and the well-rounded nature in which he has done those in. This is the most expensive price already that we have seen on Tommy Fleetwood ever. All-time high on Tommy Fleetwood right now, 886. Victor Hovland, nowhere near his all-time high, 854 right now. Still $2 to go to his fair value. So I imagine we are going to get a run on Victor. He gets a second pre-rank, which means that only Scottie Scheffler is going to break ties with him. So that's a pretty valuable trait to have here. And coming off of the contention at the PGA Championship, it's likely just a matter of time until we get a run on Hovland. Flipping this around, look at the top 10 players in the pre-rank. You can get a top 10 golfer right now for as low as $6.18. That's Si Woo Kim. Now, Si Woo missed the cut last week, has kind of been a little bit all over the place. He has lost you money in 5 of his last 6 markets, and unfortunately does not have a very good record around Colonial. If you can look past all of that, you can have him for about $1 below his fair value at the moment. Let me refresh this big board. Make sure that I have the most up-to-date live pricing that I can offer you. We've got about 4 minutes to go, 3 or 4 minutes to go until this IPO closes. Here comes the run on Victor. He has not yet gotten to Tony Finau, but he's at 942. And here comes Jordan Spieth, 902. So now we've got 4 golfers over $9 a share. Tommy Fleetwood taking a little bit of a backseat to those guys. Wishy-washy on Colin Morikawa. he's over his fair value, but he's just kind of hanging there, and it doesn't seem like anybody wants to take a hard stand on him one way or another. Here comes Max Homa, now within 75 cents of his fair value. He's at 755 right now, which is going to ask him to finish about 20th or better. So if you think Max can finish inside the top 20 at the Charles Schwab Challenge, you should probably be a buyer at 755. 712 for Jay Rose, and 675 for Ricky Fowler. Ricky has the better pre-rank in that scenario. Our defending champ, Sam Burns, did beat his fair value, but there still seems to be a lot of questions around him. He's at 665 right now, and Denny McCarthy coming in right behind at 644. This is the most expensive we've seen on Denny since the Valspar, and he'll probably beat that because he's close to it. So no worries about that. He's probably going to set one of his more expensive IPOs tonight. Cam Davis probably will as well. This is the most expensive Cam Davis has been since the Sony Open. That was early in January, and there's still a couple of minutes to go, so we'll see if there's a little bit of movement on him. I want to check on the Block man. Michael Block, where are you? Come on out. 216, $2.16 per share. He's doubled his fair value. 216 is asking him to finish 63rd or better. So essentially making the cut. Little bit of wiggle room there, but essentially asking Michael Block to make the cut. I will tell you, he's minus 210 to miss the cut. So if you like the odds market, those are the facts. Scottie Scheffler, not over 12, but now over $13, $13.05. So here's that late run in the final couple of minutes for Scottie. He has been in double digits in now each of his last 4 starts. He has been in there in 6 of his last 7. The only time he wasn't was the Players' Championship, which, oh, by the way, he won. Tony Finau, Victor Hovland, Jordan Spieth, all living in the $9 range, and we're not seeing much movement after that. Sam Burns did get up over Denny McCarthy, now trying to track down Ricky Fowler. We saw a little bit of a run on Tom Hoagie, who's a TCU Horned Frog, 491. He just got past his fair value. Sepp Straka, who went out and shot the round of the week last week on Sunday, 65, T7, 356% ROI, still about $1.25 past short of his own fair value. So not a lot of love that he can continue that. Sam Stevens, Fort Worth kid, 50 cents short of his fair value. He got into PGA Championship late, but made the cut, was around for the weekend. 8:59 p.m. Eastern time. This thing now can close at any moment. I'm going to try to refresh one more time and see what we can get to and see what these prices are. Scottie at $13.20, $1.20 over his own fair value. Jordan Spieth at $9.55. So there we go. Spieth is now the second most expensive golfer and $1 over his own fair value. Tony Finau hasn't touched his fair value yet. Still a couple of cents to get there. And then Victor well below his. Are we getting a situation in which people think there's going to be a little bit of a Hovland hangover? Certainly feels that way on this Wednesday night. Sung Jae gets a little bit of a boost there. So he is now over his own fair value, but more expensive than Colin. Not a lot of love for Max Homa. Jay Rose closing the gap on those guys. And then Sam Burns, our defending champ, still hanging around there at 667. I'll try to refresh this one more time.
We just closed. Shut it down, baby.
It is over. IPO is closed. IPO is closed. Let me make sure I have final pricing, final fair values, all that fun stuff. Scottie led the market again. No surprise there. Let's see what we got. I think I have the final pricing. Yeah, I do. Okay. All right, Joe. How did your portfolio shake up tonight?
Okay. At the top.
How many shares of Michael Block did you get?
I have 0 shares of Mike Block.
Okay, just checking.
I think he was like 235, which there's a little room in there to make some money if you want to short old Mike Block into a miscut. $1.35 per share. You got to put a lot down, but there's room.
Yeah, you got to put up a lot for sure.
All right. 15 shares of Scottie Scheffler. 13.20 per share. I think he was 14 the other week. I just think he's just as likely to win this as he did to ship the Byron Nelson. Spieth, $9.95. So Spieth was shy of $10. I thought that I didn't think that he was that far behind Scottie, but he ended up being so. Max Homa, you spoke about him. You almost cleared my price on him, but $7.80 on Max Homa. Then we went KH Lee and Harris English and Russell Henley, all in the $5 range. Sorry, Henley was $6.15 actually. Neesmith, Lingmerth in the sort of lower, and my guy Dylan Wu is back after a disappointing Byron Nelson, but he's back in the portfolio at 354. And I have one short actually this week, and it was Billy Horschel. Billy Horschel has been terrible. Now he's banking on name recognition, but basically was at that $4 per share mark, and he's lost you money in 9 of the last 10 markets. He's missing almost every cut that he plays in. Something is totally up with this guy, and I'm banking on that sort of continuing. So those are my 10 pieces of the portfolio this week.
I walked 9 holes with Billy Horschel on a practice round last week, and he was lost, he stunk, and the team was working hard. He had
music to my ears.
He had the swing guy out. He had the mental guy out. He had the whole. It was a scene.
Yeah,
nice.
Love
guy.
to hear it.
The game was not good. Yeah, that is Scottie, Spieth, Homa, Lee, Harris English, Russell Henley, Matthew Neesmith, David Lingmerth, Dylan Wu, and a short of one Billy Horschel for this week in Joe's portfolio. We saw a couple other portfolios roll in. Brett got Denny, Cam Davis, Carson Young, Ben Martin, Eric Cole, and Victor. JG Funk got KH Lee, Sepp Straka, Emiliano, Grillo, Andrew Putnam, Hayden Buckley, Neesmith, and Austin Eckler. Probably should have talked about him. And then Brett Harris. Wow, look at this. This is a big one. Moore, Spawn, Rye, Fox, Stallings, Streelman, Long, Kiz, T-Dunks, Lashley, Dylan Wu, Badley, Walker, Carson Young. All those guys on the cheaper end of things for Brett, who lives down in that range.
Brent loves it down there. Good to see your portfolio, buddy.
1320 for Scottie Scheffler. So you mentioned it. That's going to be about 7th or better. That's kind of where the market had him. Big gap between him and everybody else. What do you think? This is really just an assumption that there's going to be a hangover from Victor, where he is nearly $1 shy of his fair value.
Yeah, I that I don't normally subscribe to those sort of narratives, but I think this is a very unique situation in like something that he's never really been through in his career in terms of major championship Sunday, final pairing, playing pretty well, a little bit of potential disappointment there. Although I don't know, like maybe he can, I don't know his personality enough. You probably do, where he can potentially draw a lot of positives from that. But I just think the way that it happened, knowing that he played so well and potentially just made a mental error with 3 holes to go. I don't know if that eats at him or not, but it would for me. So that's kind of my thoughts on it.
I like the numbers on Denny, 644. I like the numbers on Cam Davis, 615. Scrolling a little bit further down the board, here's Minwoo. We talked about him a little bit, 469. So he didn't get to his fair value. It feels like there's a bit of value on the board, or at least enough guys that didn't get to their fair value where you've got a little bit of wiggle room. Yeah,
and an interesting one is Kurt Kitayama. I don't have any shares of him, but basically Cam Davis got all this love this week because of a final round that he had at the PGA. Kitayama had the same round. Kitayama's won an elevated event this year. He's been more consistent throughout the year than Cam Davis has been. Now, there have been ups and downs, but I think the guy has elite level upside, and to basically go for a significantly cheaper price, in my opinion, I think does present some value there.
Yeah, that's a pretty good take. Here's Michael Block, 235, as you mentioned, which is asking him to finish 60th.
He's been in 5 markets?
Yes, apparently. He has missed the cut in all of them.
There it is. He's failed to break like +3 over par. Yeah, it ain't going to get it done.
All-time high for Michael Block, obviously, $2.33. So
good for him.
Oh, boy. Listen, I hope he has a great week. I hope he wins the thing.
Yeah. It's just a shame that like we're so glued into social media that it kind of ruined the story to a degree, but anyone who isn't as plugged into golf Twitter as we are, I think is still eating it up.
Yeah, I mean, he's still doing like he was on like Pat McAfee. He was doing like national stuff today. Like
doing the round.
Go play a practice round. Go do something funny. All right, bud. Well, listen, same time, same place next week for Memorial. Jeez, I couldn't even think of the name. Yes, that's right. If you want to get involved, the link you're looking for is in the description. The code is POWER. That'll get you your $100 deposit bonus. And really, the fun has just begun because live trading is underway. Those featured trades will continue to pop up, make it easy to get guaranteed numbers of shares and all that fun stuff. So I think that's it, Joe. I'm ready to rock and roll.
Get in there and quote tweet the Jock Market Michael Block tweet. You're going to be in a pool of like maybe 50 people to win $150. That is absolutely free. It helps support the app. It helps support Rick and I. So if you're in this chat right now, you need to go quote tweet that and just drop. It doesn't even matter. I don't even think you have to get it right. If you just quote tweet it, you're in the drawing. So
yeah, you
could say Michael Block's going to win by 10 and you're in the drawing.
You can probably quote tweet it and say Joe Idoni is going to win. Like, it doesn't matter. Just quote. Don't be an idiot. Quote tweet it and get your 2% equity at $150.
Get in there.
Jeez, oh man. All right. Follow Joe on Twitter at TorPicks. You can find me at RickRunGood. We'll see you same time, same place next week for another Jock Market Power Hour. Good luck.